only.
Another one. Because Thorup's a weird life.
Unlike Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is director of sales of the Red Sign team. So he basically runs the team, let's be honest. It's him. And he has, how many agents do you have?
I'll get 18.
18 agents that he helps close more deals. So we should close around like 250 units this year.
Yeah. We're hoping for 275.
275 is the goal.
Yeah. Yep.
So you say units, is that also the land?
Yep.
Type of.
Yep.
With everything, so.
Yeah. Includes everything but referrals.
Be nice
So,
to him.
About 150 million in
He can
volume.
take it if you need.
Have a good
Yeah.
weekend, Jim.
Oh, I can take it. I've got thick skin. Well, maybe we'll start. You guys want to introduce yourself? Real quick, we got a big crowd today, so maybe we know each other. You guys know each other?
We just met.
You
so
guys met?
I'm Mark.
Jared.
Jared.
Jared, Mark, Bill.
Nice to meet you, Jared.
Cool. How long have you guys had your license? I know we chatted. You just
3 weeks.
3 weeks. Okay.
A week and a half.
Okay. Week and a half. Jared,
Few months.
few months. Okay.
I got it.
Okay. Cool. Tell me about backgrounds. Where'd you guys come from? Industry, job.
Was a job contractor.
Okay. Cool. Who'd you work for? Do your own thing? Okay. Cool. Cool. What made you want to get in real estate?
So my wife has been doing it before marriage. And we were looking at the books and we're like, the time and effort I put in to make this much money versus the part-time and effort that she puts in to make that much money, we're like, let's just go on.
Got it.
It's been great.
Cool. Good.
I was a real estate appraiser.
Oh, were you? Okay.
So 2011.
Okay.
When-
Here locally?
No, Arizona.
Arizona. Okay.
Yeah, I had my own business and by 2011, the government had taken over everything and
Yep.
basically, I had no access to any of that. They cut the pay way back, even though the appraisal fees are,
Going. Yeah.
they're through the roof, the appraisers get nothing,
Yeah.
the management company gets nothing. So I got out of this,
Got it. Got it. How long have you been in Utah then?
4 months.
Okay.
4 months.
What part of Arizona did you come from?
I was in the Phoenix metro area.
Okay.
I didn't move here, I moved here from Ohio.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I was in Rock Springs. I was doing home improvement stuff there.
Got it.
Not quite as.
And
what
hence
he
is
does.
what?
I work for a property management company doing rehabs and anything they need. So,
Yeah. Got it. Cool. Well, good to have you.
Well, everybody here started except Jared. Started in construction when I was in my teens, early 20s. Wanted something with a little more stability, security, so I went to work at the Costco Wholesale. So working in senior management with them, started moving around the country, looking buildings, new markets. After I moved to Chicago, Wisconsin back, realized I didn't like retail. So went out on my own and started building a consulting company doing performing blower door tile, stuck glass, consulting on renovations, home inspections, was probably the bread and butter of the business. And when I moved out here, decided I wanted something that I could see myself doing at an older age.
Cool.
Great market, what I've read, there's a lot of people moving to Utah, expected to over the
Yep.
next 5 years or so. So it's a good market. To get into. So
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, I appreciate the three of you being here today. I'm probably going to run this a little bit different. I know we'll go through and cover a lot of this, but one of the things I want to do, I'll tell you a little about my background. So I spent 10 years running a construction company. So I've got, it was a family business, third generation. They built a bunch of Office Depots, Best Buy, 26 schools in the Valley. And then 2008 happened and older generation retired. My dad and a cousin was left. And so kind of that next generation took it forward. We always did our own concrete. So that was kind of our bread and butter. So we kind of focused on that. And we spent time, I poured all over the West. So I was up in the oil fields for years, poured stuff all over Nevada and Colorado and all kinds of stuff for general contractors and stuff here. And during that time, I had gotten my license. I served a mission for the church, got my license right after, was flipping homes on the side while I was in construction. And then in 2018, I started a wholesaling and flipping company with a business partner in Maryland out of Baltimore. So we were doing stuff all over the state there. And then in 2020, I exited and kind of parted ways. Family business is tough. And so a little bit easier in your early 20s, but you finally get to a point where maybe you don't see eye to eye with your dad all the time. So probably the nicest way to put it. So I ended up getting out and getting into real estate full time. And I've been part of the Red Sign team ever since then. So it's been a fun journey. So
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
What perked your interest to get into real estate? What was your motivation?
Initially it was I liked the idea of like I still do really love construction. I love the ability to be able to take something and something that's been worn out and old and be able to remodel it. So every house I've lived in, my wife have remodeled it and stuff. I just bought one that once the current owners move out, we'll end up remodeling and stuff. So I think I like that aspect of it. The thing that I didn't love with construction that I love with real estate is the ability to, in construction, you show up, you do a job, you get paid, you leave. Like that's as far as the relationship with the client really goes. There isn't the nurturing, there isn't like, I think in life, my bucket really gets filled with just getting to know people and where they came from and their stories. And, if I can help them in any way, I find a lot of joy in that. And so real estate, I think, gives you a vehicle to be able to really nurture and grow relationships with people and connect with people, and done the right way, provide a lot of value in a lot of different areas. So like initially it was the construction side. When starting flipping house, I was like, oh, this is really cool. There's good money in it. And then getting out of it and getting the sales full time, I think part of it was just the ability to like, all right, what could I do? I averaged probably 80 to 90 hours a week for 10 years is what I did in construction. It was brutal. So I didn't love that part about it either. So Yep. yeah. And real estate's like, that's the other thing too. It's like getting into real estate. It's not like it's a 9 to 5 job either. Like you're working weekends, you're working holidays, you're working at night. Like that's just part of the gig too, but it does give you a little more flexibility. And
Well, at least you're on the bottom too.
oh, it is. It is. That was one of the other motivations to get out. But I really do like, if I knew what I know now 5 years ago in the construction business, like I left that not really understanding, and coincidentally enough, we're talking about growing your database, but like I just didn't really understand that concept being in that business because we just always were so busy. Like it was just a word of mouth business. We didn't ever have to keep contacts. Like I just had random phone numbers in my phone. We'd show up, do a job, see you later. Like I'd never talk to them again, but hindsight, when I look back, that's probably the one biggest regret that I have in that other business, is that if I would have been smart, your money is really in your database. If you're to move an industry, and you're in here and you're going to be in this community long term, if you were to ever move into another industry and you had a database of hundreds and hundreds of people that know you, trust you, you've connected with, you've nurtured relationships with, you can naturally move into another industry or business and still have a pool of people to be able to connect with and hopefully pull out business. And I just didn't really understand that concept in my early 20s and into my late 20s when I transitioned out of that. And I wish I knew that, because I would have rolled in. I mean, we did so many jobs. We worked 6 days a week, and I just thousands and thousands of people over 10 years that I did business with, and at a high level that they had a lot of respect and were excited for the finished product, and would have been a great contact to reach out to and say, hey, I've transitioned businesses and industries. I've moved into this new industry, into real estate. I would love to still provide high level service for you, just like we did when I was in construction. Is it okay if I can reach out to you from time to time and make sure you stay up to date on the market and invite you to some events every now and then? And I just didn't have that. I didn't have that Rolodex full of all the contact info. So that's probably my one biggest regret.
The one thing I've found is you can get as many 5-star reviews as you want on these sites. But I think the most rewarding thing for me was when you have a past client call you up 2-3 years later. You send emails to you and call and talk to them, and they want you to continue to work for them, or they have family members. Like that's when you're like, okay, that's my place.
Yep.
That's where we've built the relationship, we built the trust between each other. Growth.
Yep. Well, cool. Any other questions for me? Before we jump in? Okay. One of the things I would maybe ask, hi, how are you? Good morning, good morning. You want to introduce yourself? Good to meet you. We got Bill, Mark, Jared. Thanks for being here. Yeah, come up, slide up, come join the group. We'd love to have you. Maybe I'd start first. I know we're talking about growing your database today, but I'd like to open up really quick and just ask, is there any other real estate? Doesn't have to be about a database. Is there any real estate questions, topics, anything you guys would find value in if we covered today? Follow up. Okay, it's a good one. I'm gonna be an open book, so we'll spend time jamming through database. I can't promise you we're gonna spend 2 hours talking about following or growing your database, but I'd like to make sure that there's other things that you guys have wondered about, curious about, any other questions, topics that we make sure that I'd love to cover some of those too for you guys.
Just what we spoke about earlier, you know, kind of how to break the ice of conversations.
Okay.
And I guess in my mind, the reason I say that is because, you don't just obviously
You ready to buy a house?
like buy a house, so you know, it's kind of getting that feeling about getting to that point where you can then do that introduction.
Okay, we can jam through that. Jared, Mark, you guys got anything? Okay, if you think of anything, let me know. We'll add it to the list.
Cameron's done a pretty good job so far. Filling my head with a million things. so.
Well, I think that's a tough thing. Starting out in real estate, it feels like a fire hose. It feels like a lot of information. And I really think I try to tell agents a lot of times, the most important thing you can do is contacts. Like if you can grow your database, have conversations with people, that is far more important than spending time on a website or business cards or spinning your wheels in other areas. Like the best chance for you to get the soonest and fastest to a check and to a closing and to your first deal or deal number 2, 3, 4, or 5, like you just got to have lots of conversations. So the way the market is right now too, is we are in a market that has a reduction in transactions. So you really do, for you guys that weren't maybe in the trenches during COVID, like here in Utah, you could tell somebody interest rates were at 2.5%, 3%. You could go stick a new construction townhome under contract. It'd be done in 6 months. And when it was done in 6 months, you'd have $50,000 in equity. Like it was like, that was literally what was going on. People were closing on townhomes and putting them back up for sale because it was like, they were just cashing the check out. And it was literally, they just put their name on a contract, put a little bit of money down. And some people were flipping the contracts because the market was that crazy. And so part of it was that's very easy to get people to purchase when the market is that way. It's really easy to get a seller to sell when everybody's getting 25 offers on a home on a weekend. Like that's a very easy market. I joke with people, crypto and real estate during COVID was like everybody was a crypto fanatic and expert, and everybody was the best, amazing real estate agent during COVID because they put their first listing on the market and it had 47 offers and it sold in a weekend for $100,000 over list. Like that's not the market we're in. We're in a market where you really is a skill set. It's an high activity level. And to be successful and have transactions in business, you've got to just go talk to lots of people and provide value to them and grow. And really it is about growing your database. So
that's a good point. That well, I guess another thing with how do you communicate the value?
Okay. Sorry, I don't know you.
Hi,
Courtney.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, yes. I was gonna say, yes, I have seen your face. I was like, I know I've met you. I'm terrible with names, by the way. So, no, you're okay. I appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate you being here. We're talking grow your database, but maybe I'll ask you, Courtney, is there anything that you would want to cover? I told them I can't guarantee we're gonna go 2 hours on growing your database, but is there anything topic wise, real estate related, anything that you want to cover or you would be interested in talking about
Just
today.
good ways to bring up a pleasant conversation, and then turn that into like getting them into your database.
Okay. So I'll add to that. So opening the convo, but then getting them into your database. So getting some information. Okay, that's a good one. Anything else you want to add? Okay. So grow your database. So this is kind of what we'll cover today. Just building your database, feeding your database, communicating with your database, servicing your database, and they'll recap AHAs. And we'll go through this. Running red sign teams, that's really my role the day to day. I still sell. It's fascinating because, like I said, it's been red sign. We'll do about 150 million in volume this year. We'll do 275 transactions. We do everything from commercial. We've got a couple of developments. We've got a couple of custom home builders. And so growing your database is really, for us, has been a focus for even our agents and then as a team, because we've got a team database that we chase with our inside sales agents, but we also, that is a focus for all of our agents on our team. Is I think the other thing too is that some agents have this thought process of, I've just got to get, in Keller Williams, you'll hear a lot about your top 200, getting the 200 people in your database. And sometimes agents will get to that point and they'll take their foot off the pedal and think, oh, I've made it. I've got 200 people in my database. I'm good. But the reality is, at different times in different markets, different people in your database will be better positioned to transact during that market. And so during COVID, that market, we had a lot of investors investing in Utah. So a lot of our databases, we had tons of people transacting because they were picking up condos and townhomes because they were great. They cash flowed. They were making a bunch of equity when they put them under contract before they were built. And so we sold a ton of stuff as teams and as agents during that time for investors. Right now, is it a great time for investors? It's pretty tough. Correct. If you're looking, a lot of investors like the sexy cash flow. And right now, like, that is not the market we are in Utah. It can be, you can still find them. They're out there. They're really tough to find. And you've got to be really creative in doing it, but that's really not the market we're in. So a lot of the people we had that we really nurtured and transacted with during that time and in that market are not the people that are raving fans and transacting right now. And so you've always got to be growing your database, because you've got to rely on different markets and shifts in markets, and you've got to have a good wide variety of people that are in there. Does that make sense? Okay. So in the MREA, your database is your business. Building up the number of names in it and a relationship with those names is really at the very core of what building a real estate business is all about. And this is probably, I think for me, is one of the toughest things about real estate. Is not only it's that first step of getting the contact information, but the next one is like actually nurturing the relationship so that they do think of you when they need or have a real estate need. Maybe I'll ask, is everybody in command at this point? Okay. You'll get there. How many people have more than 50 people in your database right now? So, okay. More than 100? Okay, working towards there. Okay. That would be one of my goals for each of you guys, is that you really have that mindset in mind. I would set a weekly goal or a monthly goal of, hey, how many people am I going to add to my database? And really set a metric. I think that's the one thing in real estate too. You've got to have some non-negotiables and some metrics that you're chasing. There's something about subconsciously in the back of your mind having a goal on a weekly and monthly basis where you're thinking and you're in those conversations, and in the back of your mind subconsciously that you have this goal to add 1 or 2 people to your database that week. And subconsciously knowing, like, have I hit that goal? It will hopefully push you to have a little bit of a more direct conversation and have a little bit more desire to ask some of those hard questions where you sometimes can be a little bit awkward. It can be a little bit tough, when you're first starting out. Those can be a little bit harder conversations, but I think it's important to have a goal that you're shooting towards on a weekly or monthly basis, where you're just consistently adding people in and being disciplined about growing your database.
So right now, 1 or 2 people a week would be
It-
realistic, right?
Yeah.
Not like,
I think
hey,
it's a
I'm
good,
10 people a week.
Yep. Yeah. It's and I think you have to just test it and see, like, can you get there? Are you putting yourself, and we'll get into situations. It depends on, where you guys are and what you're doing for lead gen. But are you putting yourself in enough situations that allow you to meet new people? There is, and many of you guys know Lucas. If you haven't, he's in the PC program. I was talking to him, so he's had his license since September last year, so it's been almost a year. And he took like a 2-week training course on door-to-door sales, and then his lead gen thing has just been door knocking. So I was talking to him on Tuesday at team meeting, and it was fascinating because I was like, Lucas, how many people have you added into your database since you started? And he's like, I have over 700 people in 11 months, and I started with 100 people. So I'm like, we'll do the math. 600 divided by 12. I'm like, man, that's 50 people a month he's added into his database, which sounds like crazy and amazing. But my next follow-up question, which he's killed the putting people into the database. So I was talking to him on Tuesday about what have you done to keep in contact with those 600-700 people? He's like, well, nothing, because I spent all my time door knocking. And so I'm like, well, it's great. You've got all this information, but if you never go back to them and get nurturing them, you won't reap the benefits of all that hard work of getting the contact information too. So there's a process there. So you've got to think through, like, not only do you want to get the name, the phone number, the email, the address, if you can, you've also got to remember, now, what am I going to do to actually start nurturing that relationship, adding value to them, inviting them to things, keeping them up to date on the market. So you can't just stop. Don't just stop it thinking that you've won the game once you have their name and phone number. Okay. Yeah.
So when you're talking about adding people to your database, you set a weekly goal. Like, if I'm talking to inspectors or other people whose trades are adjacent to ours, does that really count? Or am I just looking for, like, anybody out in the world, rather? You know what I mean? Like, there's certain names that are better than others in terms of, like, potential for doing business with.
Yeah. The question I would have for a vendor like that would be, do you have a go-to agent at this point? And if they're like, yeah, I would love to work with you. I'd love to earn your inspector business, your, if it's any contracting work or whatever it is, home warranty, I'd love to earn that. But if they have a go-to agent when they have their own personal real estate need, they're probably not going to be, I probably wouldn't find a ton of peace and solace adding them to your database, because they're not going to use you if they've got somebody. But if they're like, honestly, not really, like, I work with a lot of great agents and stuff, but I don't really have, some of them will be very unbiased just because they kind of have to be sometimes. But if you can inject yourself in there and be like, hey, I'd love to partner with you. I'd love to send referrals back and forth. I'd love to work with you and be that go-to agent in your business. And I would love for you to be my go-to whatever. And you can build that type of relationship, then I think it can be somebody that's great to add in there and make sure you're nurturing that relationship along the way. If not, then I would add them into my Rolodex of just preferred vendors and things that I can reach out to when clients have a need. Okay. I'm going to get to this part, build your database. So at a minimum, each contact should have name, contact information, past business record. I really look at, there's really 4 things we look at. I have, as a team, we've looked at purchasing databases and dove into evaluating databases. We actually track at a very high level as a team the health of our database. And what I mean by that is, do we have a name, a phone number, an email address, and an address? So when you have those 4 things, that is really what completes a database and causes it to be 100% like healthy. And so we look at it that way. Like, if I only have names and phone numbers, but I don't have any emails, or I have a name and an email, but I don't have a phone number, it's like it limits what you can do for marketing to those leads. Okay. So you really want to have that mindset too when you're talking to people. Is sometimes when you first start out, it's like, hey, can I get your phone number? Which is great, but I don't have their email. So I can't send them monthly newsletters. I can't use some of the templates that are in Command to nurture them. I'm stuck with just, I have to get on the phone. So anytime I have to connect with this person, I literally have to pick up the phone, and I can't let any of the heavy lifting happen in the background. Does that make sense? So that's got to be hopefully the goal for each of you guys, is the more information you have, the better off your database is going to be. What's probably for you guys because you guys have all been in it long enough, what is some of the biggest struggles that you guys have with getting contact information? What's the hardest part about that for all of you guys?
I know with me, when you start asking, well, what's your name? That's easy. Yeah, so what's your phone number? What's your email address? And then you're kind of, because like me, I get so many emails and something like, I just feel a callous in my finger from deleting them all. It's, getting past that, I'm not gonna send you garbage. Junk things that you're not interested in. More, this is just kind of keeping you informed. But trying to gather all that information at the same time, sometimes people get a lot. Why do you want to know so much?
Yep. And sometimes there's a process to it too. So sometimes I tell agents, you may not, and it may not be the right situation to ask for all 4 pieces at that time, but if you can get as much as you can up front, maybe there's a name and a phone number at first. But then do you have a process when you say, hey, I captured a name and a phone number? Do you have a process to call them the next day, a couple days later, a week later, and follow up and say, hey, it was great to connect with you. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. I also just wanted to let you know that I've got, I send out 1 email a month. It really is about the neighborhood, the community, some market stats. I'd love to just keep you up to date on what's happening in real estate, but also in your neighborhood. For us as a team, that's our highest open rate for us, is it's either you've got to be really laser focused on information that's really pertains to that person. So it's got to be neighborhood, local information. A lot of times generalized information over the state. A lot of people just don't know how that actually affects them. So if you got great community things going on in a newsletter, things that are local, the other thing you have to realize is in a database, as you grow it, most people aren't going to transact for potentially 7 to 10 years. Like that's the reality. Hopefully you're pulling out referrals. Hopefully things happen before then, but there's going to be some people that say, hey, I just purchased a home last year. Well, the average is about 8 to 10 years before they're going to actually potentially sell and purchase again. So you could be calling somebody for literally a decade before they actually have a personal real estate need. And so is builder incentives exactly what they want to see in a newsletter? Well, maybe, but probably not, because if they just purchased a home, they're not going to be more interested in the interest rate and different things if there's not a mixture of some other things going on that they can take their kids or grandkids to, or there's things that are going on in the community that they can actually participate in. So we try to have a good mix when it comes to what that is.
On that complete newsletter, do you think there's value in like fall events, like pumpkin patches and all that?
Yep.
People do
Yep.
like it.
Yep. That's what we add to all of our newsletters. So every month we'll pick out so Oktoberfest, you'll have all of your pumpkin patches and your Oktoberfest that's going on. So we'll have all the information and then the links to take them to the website, be able to click on that information. So we try to have a mixture of things. So we'll have market stats on there. We'll have things that are going on in real estate, but you also want things going on. So another great one is like developments. That's a very fascinating thing for a lot of people. And there's a bunch of developments happening. I read an article this morning. The Biden administration just released $1.6 billion between Texas and Utah for chip factories. Okay, we have Texas Instruments that has, I think it's $7 billion is they're planning to put in there, but I think the Biden administration just subsidized some of that. And so you've got Point of the Mountain is a big one. That's going to be just tons and tons of money there where the old prison was. You've got Utah City here in Vineyard. You've got 3 Bridges in Salem, which is the luxury golf course community that's down there. Finding even smaller developments and things going on, people are fascinated about learning about what is happening in their community or locally. Those are the things that are interesting. Sorry, what is your name? Welcome. Marta. Okay, thanks for being here. I'll ask you really quick. We're talking about growing your database. Is there anything outside of just real estate in general that you want to cover today? I appreciate you being here. Topic, whatever it is. Okay. Yeah, raise your hand. Yeah, let me know. We'll add it to the list. Okay, so the other thing too that I think a lot of agents struggle with is actually taking the time to put things into command. So a lot of agents, you'll be really good. You'll put it in your phone, but then you don't take the time to sit down and put it back. Priscilla's like, yeah, that's me. That is totally me. Um,
I think one, just the one I closed. Just one.
to command.
Yeah, then I have it, like, to trust, then weekend, like, just to do that.
Yep. Yeah, you'll be able to mass transfer them in. Yep. But that's the important thing is you start to grow your database. You'll start to get to a point where, so for example, a lot of you probably know who Clay Winder is. He's on Red Sign team, owns is part owner of the team. He's got like 700 people on his database. Okay. So when you get to a point where you start having more of these conversations and you're connecting with people, those are great. But if you don't take time to sit down and unload your brain into your database and say, okay, I told somebody that I was going to look into some builder incentives and follow up with them. I've got to put that into command, make sure I put my notes in there. Hey, so-and-so said that they're going on this trip this summer. They've got this going on. Like if you're not putting things into command as far as notes and having some sort where you can dump into so you can keep track of those things, because there's a lot of value when you start consistently calling your database to reach back out and say, hey, you mentioned you guys were going on that really awesome vacation this summer. How was it? How was the vacation? What did you guys do? Tell me all about it. You know, and you're connecting and building and growing that relationship. But as you start to grow and you have more and more conversations, it's really hard to remember everything. And people find a ton of value in when you listen to them and you are actively listening to them. And so I think that's one of the most important things. And it's a struggle even within our team, is just getting agents to like slow down to speed back up and really taking the time to put it into your database. Command is going to be the place too that like that's where your leverage as an agent is going to come from. So if you're not taking the time to put the information into the CRM, you can't utilize any of the tools that are in there. So you're pigeonholing yourself into the only ability you have is to use third-party applications, or you have to literally, again, you have to pick up the phone and call them to nurture and grow the relationship. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Austin.
Good to meet you. Thanks for being here. I'll ask you the same question. Is there anything, we're talking grow your database today, is there anything real estate related topic, anything that's been on your mind that you want me to put down? I want to make sure that you guys get the most value out of me being here today.
Those are the ones we have.
So far we've got following up with people. So maybe best follow-up practices, opening the conversation with people. How do you start the conversation? What does that look like? And then also, how do you take that initial conversation and get it into being able to get contact info to put them into your database? And then also, how do you provide value to people?
I'll think about it for.
Okay. If you've got anything, let me know. We'll add it to the list. And Hunter's really good for you guys if you haven't met with Hunter as far as utilizing command, smart plans. Command's got tons of things in there to utilize too. So that's why I said, if you're not spending time, you've got to really think through, not only do I've got to talk to people, get their contact info, but I've got to sit down, put it into command. And then it's very beneficial to start learning about all the tools that you can take advantage of in the CRM. Okay. We've got people, or there's instances all the time where, we'll have somebody that literally won't answer a phone call. They won't respond to any of our emails. They won't ever text us back, but we have them on a listing alert, for example, in our CRM. And then all of a sudden, we'll start to see that they start clicking on things and they're viewing stuff. And you'll have them reach out and they'll be like, hey, I'm actually ready to start buying. And it's like, what is wrong with you? Why haven't you picked up the phone? I've called you like 10 times over the last 2.5 years. And you literally, I've like wondered if you were even alive. But yet here we are. I've got something consistently going to them with a newsletter or a listing alert. And all of a sudden they come back and they're like, hey, I'm ready to transact. And I appreciate you following up with me. And I'm like, I really didn't do it that much. I mean, we just had emails going out automatically, but I appreciate you reaching out, you know, and so you can have those experiences if you're utilizing your CRM. Okay. Feed your database. So one of the things I want to talk about with this is maybe what are things that you guys are doing to grow your database right now? Anything particular that you guys are focused on? Okay, so door knocking, maybe we'll make another list right here. So we've got door knocking.
Door knocking.
I take a little flyer, like a myself, like, and I cut them in like a shape or something. If they don't answer, I'll just stick it in. But if they're outside or they answer me like, oh, hi, how are you? Like, I just sold a house in this area, like, and then, or I have an open house in this area. That's where I have been doing the most door knocking. Like if an agent will tell me like, oh, can you do an open house for me? I'm like, okay, yeah, but I will go on Wednesday and do like 100 flyer pass out.
Cool.
But I haven't gotten any traction, to be honest with you, yet.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's because that area, I feel it is already like established, it's people that are not gonna move. It's over there in South Jordan, Great Neck Street,
Okay.
so it's like a bigger house.
Yep.
And I feel like a lot of those people, that's like the house they wanna stay in like forever. You know?
Yep.
So maybe I need to go like to an area, like a town area, people that wanna move to their like dream house. Because I go to these houses, they're already like at their dream house, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Unless they're empty nesters, I did get one that they wanna sell soon. Or like the one that we're selling, I'm co-marketing with, Tim Murray.
Okay. Yep.
So on that house, so they're actually like a couple that he got sick, so we can no longer afford a house. So that's like a rare situation. You know what I mean? But in that area, I don't think those people are wanting to move. So I think it would be beneficial if I go to like an area with apartments or townhouses, because those people want to buy like a bigger house.
Yep. Yeah, condos and townhomes. If you're gonna door knock, that's what I was telling Lucas. Lucas has spent a lot of time on single family homes. And which are great. They're great ways to build your database. But to your point, Priscilla, like you do have a lot lower turnover rate in those neighborhoods. And so then it's about longevity.
That's right.
Yep. And Real Advantage is a great asset. You can sit down with them. They can actually pull up townhome or condo community. They can tell you how many are owner occupied versus rentals. And they can also pull up and tell you the percentage of those that are turning over on an annual basis. And so I tell a lot of agents, if you can get somewhere where you're about, you want to be somewhere 8 to 10% starting. If you can get above that, then you have a great opportunity. So you take 100 homes, if you've got a 10% turnover rate, means 10 of those properties in a 12-month period should sell and turn over. And so you'll find a lot of single family neighborhoods, especially you get into 7, 8, 900,000 range or more. You'll find a lot of those are 1, 2, 3% turnover rates. There's just not a lot of those are going to change over. So you take 100 homes, like one of those is going to sell potentially in a 12-month period. And in this market and environment, it does have to be usually life-changing events, like you're sick, you're getting a divorce, you're having to downsize, like those. So door knocking's
Like for that area, because they do refer you to their children or their grandchildren. Like I had two older men, and their wives, like they were talking to me for like a good hour. Like they didn't want to let me leave, but they were telling me the whole lot, like their grandkids. That they were talking to their grandkids. That was like 2 weeks ago. So they didn't give me any information because they didn't want to give me any information, but at least they have mine, you know. So
Yep.
I'm sure they'll reach out one day, maybe.
Yep.
They say different things.
Okay, cool. So door knocking, what else? That's a good one. What else are you guys doing to grow your database?
Trying to have conversations about real estate wherever I go. But I did the worst thing yesterday.
What's
I
that?
did a good thing and a bad thing. So the good thing was I was getting my hair cut and I talked to the stylist about real estate. She's young, she's 25. And so I started telling her about because she said something about how unaffordable it is. And it's actually easier than you think. Can you talk to a lender? And I start talking to her about like my kids and how I'm telling them this is the way you should approach it, blah, 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 making it relatable. And she's totally like, yeah, I need to do this. But I just, I'm not ready. I'm living at home. It's so cheap.
Yep.
So we kind of like built it up. And at the end, here's the bad thing. At the end, like we had moved on to other things. And at the end, I just said, I gave her my card. And I said, listen, when you're ready to talk to a lender, there's no commitment. I can hook you up with so many good lenders. Just let me know. And she's like, okay, this will burn a hole in my pocket. So I need to do it. I should have said, let me have your info and I'll just set you up in a quick, easy text with a couple of different lenders and they can give you ideas.
Yep. Or even just, that's a good example of just saying, hey, I'd love to stay connected with you. I from time to time will reach out, invite you to events. I would love to let you know what's going on in the market. When interest rates come down and it does become more affordable, I'd love to put you on my list and make sure you're aware of when that happens. Is it okay if could I grab your phone number and your email and just stay connected with you? And so then you're capturing their information. So the chance of you got to realize like the chance of how often when somebody gives you a card do you ever reach back out? Like it's very rare that ever happens, So you really gotta, that's your opportunity in realizing like you're in a business where you have to be to push for the info and realize like and have the mindset like they're either gonna say yes or no. So if you can just accept the outcome before you ever go into it and realize like either I'm going to get it, they're going to be open to it, or they're just going to say, no, I'm not interested. And you can start overcoming those objections and say, well, what would keep you from, reaching out? Do you have a go-to real estate agent if you had a real estate need? Is there somebody in your life that if you were curious about the market or curious about what home value you had, is there somebody that you could turn to? That's how I would try to overcome, that objection is digging into it. But if you can accept the fact it's going to be yes or no, and it's going to be no 100% of the time if you don't ask.
Okay, rewind for a second, Cody. And just go back to like how you approach it with them and then how you overcome, because this is good language. And if you make it sound so casual.
Yeah, it's on Zoom. I think Cameron's recording it. So hopefully it's being recorded. I think the camera's on. So I would just ask him when you end that conversation. I think it's great because you usually tend to, when you're talking to people, it leads into grandkids and life and their life story and everything else. And you have this great 10-minute or 30 or 60-minute conversation. And so then there's that thought in your mind where you're like, I gotta get some info. Like I gotta feel like I won and like I leave with something. And so in that moment, that's where I just love to say, hey, I'd love to stay connected with you and keep in touch. I would love to let you know about what's going on in the real estate market when interest rates come down. There's been some great builder incentives lately, or hey, from time to time, the brokerage does put on big events. I'd love to invite you and your grandkids to our next event that we do. Would it be okay if I just got your phone number and stay connected with you? Would that be okay? Most of the time, if you're providing value to people in that light and you have something to give them, most people won't say no. If you give a gift to somebody, how often they're like, I don't want your gift. Like, I'm not like, that's so nice of you. Like, I'll take that. So it's just, you've got to have that mindset of what am I doing to provide value? And that's every phone call that you make, every interaction, you've got to have that mindset. What am I doing to provide value to this person and this situation? And in that moment, and so if someone's like, most of the time, most people will be open to it. And if they're a little bit hesitant, it's probably because they either don't understand why you would be reaching out, or it's potentially because they have somebody that they already know that's potentially an agent. So if they said no, I'd say, hey, is there somebody, can I just ask, is there anybody that you have that you could reach out to if you were curious about what your home was worth, or if you were just curious in general about the real estate market? Do you know somebody and you have somebody that you could turn to? And then find out if they have somebody that is that person. That's a great way even if you're door knocking or you're meeting somebody that you don't know, that's a great question just to ask somebody. Because then you really get down to, you also don't want to be growing your database with a bunch of people that if you were to ask them that question, they were like, oh yeah, my sister is an agent. Like, great. Well, do you want to call somebody every quarter and connect with them to only find out that when you call them, they're like, oh, we're so excited. We just went under contract on this house. And you're like, oh, congratulations. Who helped you? And you're like, oh, my sister's an agent. And you're like, oh, I didn't even know that. I've been calling you for 2.5 years. Like, I just didn't even realize that you had somebody that you would turn to that's already an agent, because I just didn't ask one simple question. So when you're qualifying people as you grow your database, it's important to ask. That's a great question to ask to qualify them. Like, is that a good person to put in there? Okay. Any other questions with that? The other question I would ask too, as you're growing your database and connecting with people is, does everyone know what an open-ended or a closed-ended question is? Jared's shaking his hand. Who can tell us what that is? What is it, Jared?
So we try to not give them a yes or no question. Say, do you know anybody who's looking to buy or sell? And I say, so it's always gonna be, say, who do you know?
Yep, great.
And then they start thinking, well, It's even if they don't know anybody, they're like, I can't think of anybody right now, but I'll let you know.
Yeah.
You leave a hook.
Yeah, subconsciously you've left an open-ended circuit, you know, so next time if they find themselves in a real estate conversation. And you've asked an open-ended question, you have a lot more likely chance of them being like, oh yeah, I remember when Jared asked me if I knew somebody, you should reach out to Jared. Cause he's awesome, you know, instead of it asking, do you have someone that's, you know, do you have anyone that you know that's ready to make a real estate move? Your point, it will always be, most people will always say no. And then that closes it off in their brain, and that literally is not something you ever really think about, because you already committed to, like, it's a no. Okay, so open-ended questions are important too.
I had a lady that she was for sale by owner. Up in Thurman, like that new construction and figure selling, like one little grocery store there.
Okay,
And I went over there and she's like, oh yeah, I own several houses, like she had like an attitude, you know? I was like, oh great, so nice to meet you, I can see if I can just walk through and I can help you with it. I lost it because I vouched like for the buyer for commission, the buyer agent commission. And she's like, and she texted me like, I didn't like her attitude, and I found another agent that was able to do it without giving the other agent a commission. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I just do know that there's a lot of value when somebody sees that there is a commission on the property, and they're gonna want to bring their clients here because they want to get paid as well. You know, we all want to get paid. It's just like livelihood.
yeah,
And she was like, don't ever call me. Like, so do you think like, and I have noticed like a lot of people like are opposed to that. Do you think that's a good thing to talk about on the first time? Because I've noticed like a lot of people are like upset about it.
yeah, it depends on the person. So we as a team, we generate like 1,000 to 1,500 leads a month. We've gone on for the last 6 months since this was announced, this whole change in settlement was announced in February. We've gone on numerous appointments where people have that mindset, they're like, they want to save money. So I think that's any appointment. Everybody you meet with is going to have particular things, it's motivations or things that are important to them. And so it's important to find out what those are. To that, it sounds like to that, maybe one of them was commissions. Like she was in a situation where she really didn't want to have to pay a buyer's agent or have to pay more commissions, which is fine. I think that's one of the things that's changing with everything that's going on in settlement this week, is that your focus as an agent, if you're walking in with the attitude of wanting to get the listing, is, well, go negotiate your paycheck. It's up to now the buyer's agents to make sure that they negotiate their paycheck. And so we've had appointments where people are like, hey, I don't want to offer. We've got 2 listings right now that they're, well, we've had a couple now that we're sending out the new addendum to active listings. We've had a couple others that are like, I don't want to, I'm putting 0 on the buyer commission because it's all negotiable. And so if somebody has that attitude, I would be open to saying, well, let's talk about my commission. Let's talk about what it's going to cost for me to list it. What's my marketing plan? What am I going to do for you to get it sold? And now let's talk about pros and cons of potentially offering a buyer commission, but what would you like to do? If someone's like, well, I don't offer anything, I'd say, great. You don't have to offer anything. You've never had to offer anything. But can I just tell you, Priscilla, you should expect, if we have a great buyer's agent who spent a ton of time with their client and they are a really good agent, you have to know that they're going to come to the table likely asking for compensation as part of their offer. So I'm not going to openly disclose, or I'll tell people that you're not wanting to pay a commission if agents reach out to me, but know that it's very likely as we run our net sheet, we probably should just anticipate or include that in there because it's potential, but you're hiring me to negotiate on your behalf. And so I'm going to do my best job to negotiate with you to make sure that you get the best deal, make the most amount of money during this transaction. So I think in this new environment that we're going into, you absolutely have to be open and ready to sit down with a seller that's like, I've read the articles, I'm saving money, I'm happy to pay you, but I'm not paying a dime to a buyer's agent. Like, I'm not doing it. And you have to be able to have that conversation and help them walk through and understand that process.
Well, and if you start down that path, with that understanding, that can always be another conversation to have later on, right? I mean, so just like price, well, you know, this is what I would recommend. Price that, no, I want to price it $20,000 higher. Okay. If you look at it, it's a little too high. Hey, the feedback we're getting is it's too high. So you could also do the same, I would think, I would imagine, I'm asking.
Absolutely.
With the commissions, you could say, listen, we're not getting a lot of foot traffic in here, we've got a lot of advertising out there, we're really pushing. But the feedback we're getting is that people don't want to show the house because the agents are saying, well, you know, I can't get my buyer to give me a commission and this guy does right. So,
Yep. Yep. No, you absolutely can't. Sellers still motivated. That's why they're wanting to sell their house. So you bring them, you eventually get an offer and you're like, hey, great news, we've got an offer. It's a little bit less than maybe the price you wanted. Here's some of the other things to consider. And by the way, they are asking for an agent commission. And this is where we've talked a lot as a team is like, it is negotiable. I think as a seller, like if somebody brought a seller a full price offer that was amazing and great, and they're asking for 3% buyer compensation, you know, it's probably likely that a seller probably says, okay, great, I'm getting what I want. I anticipated having to pay something. Sounds like a great buyer. Let's do it. But if somebody brings me a $75,000 under list offer, that's probably one of the things as a seller and as a listing agent that they're going to say, hey, we're considering it, but we don't want to pay 15,000 in concessions. We'll pay you 5, and you ask for a 3% commission, but my seller only wants to pay you 1.5 or 2 because the offer is 75 grand under list and they've got to net a certain amount. It becomes one of the negotiable items as part of the deal. So you can absolutely go back to it. Okay. As you guys continue and you start transacting, that's the other thing too, is to understand and realize your best cheerleaders will always be the people that you do business with. So the more transactions you can get to, know that like that is going to be your best cheerleaders. Those are the best people to get referrals out of. They're going to be your best referring clients. It's going to be the people you transact with because they've actually experienced the level of service and business and quality of how you handle yourself. And so just remember that in those first initial, as you start closing deals, those are the people you've got to try to pull referrals out of. Those are your easiest people to get repeat business with. And so have any of you guys heard of the promise script? Okay. You know what it is?
Remember what it is, something to the effect of like, my goal is to make this as awesome and such a 5-star experience that you'll want to refer me to all your friends and family, something like that.
Yep. So there is a guy named, it's the Hicks and Anderson team up in Idaho. His name's, I think it's Mike Hicks. He essentially built a referral business off of literally no lead gen other than just referrals. And he is like the godfather of this, what they call the promise script. So it's essentially, it's a promise. So this is something that I do every appointment, buy side or list side. At the very end, right before we get to the agreement, I'll end with, hey, there's 2 things I want to end on. And one of them is the promise. My promise is to provide a 5-star experience, Jared. Something that's just, you can't even imagine. That's my goal during our time working together. How does that sound?
Great.
Awesome. We do work with people, you know, so there may be some road bumps, there may be some hiccups, because it is real estate, it is people, but my goal again is my commitment is to provide a 5-star experience throughout this process. But I have one thing in return to ask you. Can I ask you what that is? Can I ask you? My one ask is that during this transaction, that when you think of somebody, have a real estate conversation, that you will share their name and phone number with me so I can connect with them. You'll refer somebody over to me. Can you do that for me? Okay. And what I'm asking, Jared, is not that you give them my information. What I'm asking is that you will email me, text me, call me with their name and phone number, whether they're looking to buy, sell, invest, or they just have real estate questions. So I have 100% chance of connecting with them. Can you do that for me? Okay. At the end of this, when we're at the close table, you're getting the keys, we're signing on the house, Jared, you're stoked, and I haven't got a referral, I'm going to think that I didn't live up to this 5-star experience. And so I'm going to want to have a tough conversation with you and just ask, really, Jared, like, what didn't I do during this time period to give that to you? Is that okay? And throughout the process, I'll have that at the very beginning stages of the appointment. So I set the stage of wanting to get a referral. I want somebody out of their database. I want somebody, friend, family. I want them to give me somebody. As we're showing houses, I'll bring it up. Hey, have you thought of anybody? You started having conversations with coworkers and friends and family about you being out shopping? It's just like if you're driving down the road and You know, I asked you on the way here, how many red cars did you see? You know, you're like, I don't know, but if I asked you, when you leave today on your way home, count how many red cars you see on the way home. I promise you subconsciously, when you leave here, you're gonna start looking for red cars. Okay, so when you're in a transaction, people naturally just start having, like, oh, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm gonna be looking at a couple of houses. Oh, really cool, I didn't know you were buying a house. You know, you naturally start to have more of those real estate conversations. So the environment is the best time to try to get referrals. So I'll bring it up throughout the process, and then I will bring it up. If we're at closing table and we're like excited, stoked, we sign, they're like so happy, we're talking about when they're gonna get the keys, and I'm leaving, I'm like, man, I'm so excited for you guys. But the one thing is, I feel like I let you guys down. And they're like, no, this is so great, you've been awesome, this is fantastic. I'm like, yeah, but you didn't give me a name and a phone number of anybody, so I feel like I didn't live up to like your expectations, and I didn't provide this 5-star experience for you guys. You know, and there's a level of like, I don't want to make them feel like terrible, but I want them to feel like, guys, like this is the livelihood of my business. I love helping friends and family of clients that I close and do business with you with. I would love if you could send me somebody over. So if I don't have it at that point, I've literally opened the door for the next time I call them to be, hey, how's the new house? How are you guys doing? You thought of anybody? Who do you know that I can reach out to? Who do you know that I can invite to an event? Like, it's opened that relationship two-way conversation where like I can be comfortable asking because they already know why I'm asking. They know that I love helping friends and family. They know that it's the livelihood of my business, but that is like your best opportunity to get referrals. Okay, so remember that if you're in the transaction, I know it's crazy in your first couple and there's so many things that you're learning and new things going on, but don't hesitate to bring that up and ask them, hey, who else do you know? What other conversations are you having that I could reach out to and connect? Okay. That's a good way to just keep growing the database. Okay, to succeed at a high level in real estate sales, you must commit to frequent contact with a database with the intent of building close relationships. Does anybody know what DTD2 is? Has anyone heard of what that is? Jared shaking his head. What is it?
Forget what it's. But it's setting up your database. All everybody this last week, this week. So wait, cycle through the whole database.
Yeah, I'm trying to think as I'm thinking through it. I always just call it DTD2, but it's do the database. Yeah, do the database. So I know it's do the database, and what it is it breaks your database up into 2 letters of last names every week. So every quarter, your whole database A through Z is called every quarter. Okay. Why do you guys think it's important to call the people in your database consistently? What did you say? Okay, so don't forget you.
Yeah, so they connect you, whenever they think real estate, they think you.
Yep. Yeah, gotta stay top of mind. You also have to realize like there are like 18,000 agents in the state. Like there's so many, a lot of like almost everybody knows somebody that's in real estate. Okay. So you gotta realize that most agents don't do a great job at keeping in contact with people. They just don't. That's one of the negative things that people say about real estate agents a lot of time is their communication. Okay. And so if you already know that 95% of the industry is not going to call people regularly and connect with them and try to provide value, and we'll get into like listing out things that you could call about, you got to realize like be the agent that's going to call and provide value, connect with them and want to add to the relationship. And it doesn't always have to be about real estate. That's the other thing. It's building relationships. To me, building relationships at the end of the day is about caring about people. So it doesn't mean you have to call them and be like, hey, do you want to buy a house yet? Do you want to buy a house yet? Like, that doesn't have to be the conversation. It could be like, hey, I just saw that your birthday was yesterday on Facebook. Happy birthday. How was your birthday? What did you do? What did you like? That can be a very casual conversation, but you're adding value and it comes across like, hey, I actually care about you and I want to know how your birthday was, you know? And so it doesn't always have to lead into that whole like real estate jammed down their throat every single time. Because a lot of agents are like, well, what the heck do I call about 4 times a year? Like I usually go 3 years before I even talk to this person because I run into them wherever I run into them. And so how am I going to start calling them on a quarterly basis? And so you have to find ways, and your mindset has to be in such a way that what am I doing to provide value to this person? Okay. And so We track it as a team at a high level. For us, it's really important because that's the thing that keeps us top of mind for everybody that's in our database. We don't want to go a period of time where they're like, oh, I haven't heard from so-and-so in 12 months. And so my cousin's uncle's nephew got his real estate license. So I just like decided to list my house with that person. You're like, I would crush that agent. Like I'm so much, I have way better skill set. I'm a way better agent than that person. They're like, oh, I just totally forgot that you were even in real estate. Because I don't see you posting about it. I haven't heard from you. I just forgot that you were in that industry. So you've got to make sure you remind people about it. Does anybody feel like they've got a good systematic approach to how they're reaching out to people at this point? I know it's early on for a lot of you guys. Does anyone feel like they've got a good groove down on a daily, weekly, monthly basis for calling people, connecting? Okay. So that's something that I would encourage you guys to think through. Like, and to me, it really comes down to, are you putting time in your calendar to be systematic about calling people? Even if you didn't have DTD2 dialed in with your database tagged in command with the different last name letters, doesn't mean you can't make sure that every week you don't have a goal to say, hey, I want to make sure I have I'm going to reach out to so many people that, I'm going to set time aside where I'm door knocking, growing my database, and I'm also going to connect with them. I'd also have an approach when you meet new people. It's not just like, hey, great, thanks for getting me your email. I'll stay in touch. And then you don't ever hear from them. Like I would have a systematic approach about it of call them the next day or a couple days later or the next week and say, hey, it was really great connecting with you. I'd love to stay in touch. Just note, watch out. I'm just going to send you one email a month. I'll also get you just on some people love looking at like huge homes. So that's sometimes when people are like, I'm not really in the real estate market. We're like, okay, great. You want to look at some like $5 to $25 million homes in Utah? Like, sure. Like I've got an older lady that's, we call her Grandma Rachel. She lives in our last ward. She's like, man, I love just looking at those like stupid, ridiculous houses. Like, she was gonna die in her house. Like she's been there forever. Like that's her intention. She's like, I'm never gonna move. I'll die here. But she's like, keep sending me those. I love looking at those crazy houses. Who can even afford those houses? And I'm like, I don't know. I can't afford one of those houses, but it's kind of crazy to look at. She just like loves looking at $20 million houses. So sometimes setting people up on just a random listing alert that drops once a month that sends them the latest $10 million houses that are in the market because they're not interested in making a move. Like people love looking at really cool houses. That's why you've got HGTV shows that are literally just like luxury homes, and people are like, this is so cool. You got real estate agents that literally just their whole business is taking videos of luxury homes, and like that's their whole business, So people love looking at cool houses. So find ways to be systematic in the approach. So this is probably one of the areas. So we talked about door knocking. What other avenues do you guys have to go lead gen? Is there anything else you guys are doing? This is probably the hardest part of the real estate, getting into real estate. Is that you feel like you called the 75 people that are friends and family. No one's really ready to transact. Now what do I do? Now who do I call? I've ran out of those people. So this is where you really have to start getting creative. And I think I tell a lot of people, I think it's more about being consistent, finding one or two things that you're going to be really consistent with than there is no secret sauce. It really isn't.
So giving things away, or like, I guess it's just, again, contacting your database. So when the parade of homes came around, I called a bunch of people and offered them tickets, and they were super excited about that. And then I just put a little request for referrals with the tickets. I didn't give you referrals, but a lot of people said you're a person.
Cool. You're like,
but I mean, any chance to like get in touch with them that feels comfortable. I think as we start out, I'll speak for myself. It's hard to make that transition from being just sales oriented, from being just like normal relationship to now I'm communicating with you with a purpose, and we don't want to feel like it's fake or transactional. And so having something to offer somebody helps ease that transition.
Yep. No, it does. Yep. Yep. Yep, there's that. There's, I mean, you can door knock, you can farm an area, which is, you're door knocking as part of that, picking a particular area and consistently going back to it to connect with those people. This is where just getting involved in things. Like I'll share a story with one of the agents on our team. He will sell, Jake Bowers will usually do, he'll usually do probably 12 to $15 million every year. And you know what he does? Twice a month, he invites people over to his house for dinner. They'll do pizza night, they'll do pie nights, they'll do, he does a cookbook club. He just put a $1.3 million house under contract from one of his friends, invited somebody else to come to cookbook club. Like that's all he
What
does.
is cookbook club?
It's kind of like book club. So everybody just brings a different dish, the cookbook club, and then everybody gets to try a little bit of everything.
That's a great
So it's
thing.
kind of like a potluck, if you will, but it's like I think you take like a cookbook, but then everybody tries something else and makes it and brings it, and you get to try it and hang out. And like, that's all he does for lead gen. I like want to strangle him because I can't get him to call his people consistently. But he literally is like, will do 12 to 15, $17 million every year consistently. Jake is just super, super consistent, but it's all because he just does 2 things. Everybody knows he's in real estate. Everybody knows it's an open door policy, so you can invite whoever you want. So he always has new people come and participate. And all of his friends know at this point that like Jake sells real estate and he's gonna sell you a house. So jokingly, because he's done it so long and it's so consistent. And when people come over, they just know like, hey, you better watch out. You're new to cookbook club, like Jake's gonna sell you a house if you don't watch out. So I think it's about being consistent. You'll go to like family reunion and it always blows my mind. Like I was in one of the classrooms and a lady was telling me about her whole legion was birthday cards. She grew her database and then she religiously wrote a handwritten birthday card every year for everybody in her database. And that was the way that she connected with them. And that was her way of providing value. And I'm sure she connected in other things and called them from time to time and stuff. But that was her one thing that was like super consistent every week, every day. She sat down and wrote birthday cards. Okay. You'll have people that will just really lean into social media. So they'll take a lot of just walkthrough videos and content. They don't do anything else, but they're just super consistent with going out, creating content, posting about it. So again, I think it's more about finding something that you can do that's going to be consistent, that you can continue to go back to, and you will do it every day, every week. Okay. Because a lot of times agents will get into the business and like, I gotta grow my database. I'm gonna go door knock for a month. They're like, I didn't get appointments. I haven't closed 3 transactions yet of that. So now I'm gonna like go do this. I'm gonna go just hit the phones. I'm gonna start calling, gonna pull lists and scrub them off the DNC list. I'm just gonna start cold calling people. And they do that for a month and they're like, wow, that hasn't worked. So now I'm gonna, and you just start bouncing around, but you never give it enough time where something can actually stick. And it's real estate's building a business. It takes time, guys. Like go open a restaurant, go start any other business. And there's this expectation that like, all of a sudden it's going to take time, but you get into real estate, it's like, man, I haven't sold 5 houses in 3 months. What the heck's wrong with me? Nothing, but you got to make sure you're having contacts and reaching out to people and doing things that's going to build your business every single day, every single week. Okay. And finding niches too. That's the other thing. Like you'll get people that do really well because they join PTA groups, and like everybody knows they do real estate, but they're involved in the community. Like you have to be involved with stuff. And then you have to be open about sharing and asking questions and being open about being in real estate as part of that. We won't get too much into this. Everyone know what a 36 touch is? Everyone heard that before? So that's ideally you get to a point where you're touching your database 36 times throughout the year. So you roll down that list. 4 touches or phone calls. So that's that quarterly call through DTD2. 26 touches can be bi-weekly emails. As a team, we do 2 emails. I'm trying to think. I think Command's got something similar now because we're in a different CRM. But we will send 1 newsletter a month that's based around community events, a little bit of market data, and things that are going on. And then the second one is based around their home value. So it's a home value email. Because that really is the thing that matters most. Like they don't care about generalized Utah data. They really want to know what's going on in my neighborhood. Okay. And then you've got 2 touches or events, get-togethers, parties, and then 4 touches, promotional direct mail, such as magnet, calendar, market reports. That can be, we've done different things like, like, for example, I talked about Jake, he'll do bread. So every time around Thanksgiving time, we'll do, he'll do bread. So and he doesn't do it to everybody in his database, but he'll pick his top 50 people and stop by with homemade jam and a loaf of bread and stop by and say, hey, it's good to see you. Want to stop by and give you something for the holidays. Again, it's just finding ways to connect with people. Your job is to build the community and serve the community. Okay. So this is where I think you've got to put yourself in situations. That's the hard thing. When you come from like a 9 to 5 or working in a normal place, like you go to the office, you go to this job, you come home, you don't have to put yourself into situations that you have to meet new people because you're doing a job that you get a check every 2 weeks. Like you show up, you get paid. That's most people is what you have to do. Being in real estate, you now have to change your mindset of like, all right, when you get invited to go to that get together, that family party, you probably should go. You probably should let them know how real estate's going. Like it naturally will come up. How's work? What's going on? Are you still working at that place? What are you doing, Priscilla? And it's like, I'm actually in real estate now. It's been really good. This is what I'm doing. And that should hopefully lead into, yeah, I got all these really cool things going on. And a lot of people will be like, well, how's the market? It's like, it's terrible. It's terrible. No, you don't want to tell them that. There is a lot of opportunities in the market. Every market's different. There was a lot of hard things with the COVID market. There's a lot of hard things in this market. As good as everybody thought that market was, I promise you, there would be houses that there was one time where a house popped up at 9:30 at night. It was vacant in Eagle Mountain. I live in Salt Lake County. I literally called a client. It was like, I know this sounds crazy, but we've literally looked at 50 houses and written probably 15 offers at this point and lost out on every single one of them. I've called the agent. She said she would be open to taking an offer tonight. Do you want to like pack up your 2 kids and go look at a house in Eagle Mountain, like right now? And they were like, yep, let's do it. And like, I'm like getting home at like 10:30, 10:45 at night. I'm like, what? Like that was the craziness of that market. So like, as hard as things are, like there's always going to be difficult things in every market. So when someone asks that, like, how's the market? It's actually, there's a lot of opportunities in the market. Depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking to buy or sell? If someone's looking to sell, it's like, well, have you heard about seller financing? We've done a ton of deals with seller financing. Have you heard about all of the incentives for builders? Did you know that rates are coming down? They came down a whole % the last 2-3 weeks. So it's starting to allow people to understand. It's not, everyone sees the headline news. So what are you doing as an agent to educate people on what's actually going on? Okay. Servicing all leads. I talked a little bit about this at the beginning with, it's one thing to get the information, but what do you do? What's your plan for follow-up? So maybe this will lead us into, I'd probably list out what do I call about? So before I start listing things off, what do you guys call about? What have you called about so far? What are ways to provide value to follow up with people?
So are you talking about following a lead or just like when you're calling your database?
General, everybody. I would say just database. We'll focus on once you have somebody in there, they're not somebody immediate, because usually there's specific things if it's a lead and they're like, well, I'm considering buying, like if it was a hairdresser, and you got her information, you hadn't heard from her in a week, I probably would pick up the phone and say, hey, how are you doing? How's business last week? I just wanted to follow up from our conversation that we had. Do you want me to connect you with that? Have you thought about being able to buy a home? Do you want me to connect you with a lender? What are your thoughts with that? Do you want me to send you over a few incentives and things from new construction aspect? I'd follow up with her and see where that's at, see where it's going to go. So if it's just database, just general database, you've got somebody, you've got them in there. What are you calling about quarterly?
I've stolen cameras, I don't know if it's cameras or, but just, hey, I ran into one of you and decided, I'll see how you're doing.
Okay, so just checking in.
Yeah.
there is something you know they're thinking about, and then you see something that reminds you of them, like, and you have to do this, she has all these different listing alerts, and she'll see a listing alert pop up, and it will remind her of someone that she knows who either lives in that part of town or has expressed interest in something, and she might just say, hey, I thought of you when I saw this listing, and send it to them, something like that. So you could say, hey, I just heard Biden's giving all this money to Texas Instruments in Utah, and I know you were looking at picking up an investment property. This might be a great time.
Yep.
Something like that.
Yep. I'm gonna put that one in like market data. Cause I think that's a good one in general. So I like, so when rates dropped 2 weeks ago, I had multiple people that I called and was like, hey, how are things going? How have you been? I know it's been like 6 months since we started potentially considering buying a house, but I wanted to let you know there's some great news. Like rates just dropped a whole point. And so I had one in particular, we were waiting for a raise. And then also with the rates coming down, it just makes it more affordable. So if you had buyers, potential people that were like, I just don't think it's affordable. It's like, it's a great time to say, hey, the inflation report came out, unemployment's out, it's actually higher than they expected. Interest rates have dropped a whole point, which makes a huge difference on a mortgage. You know, how open are you? I'm not sure this is even for you, but how open are you to taking a look at, maybe revisiting purchasing a home sooner than later? So updating them on what's going on in the market. Okay. We have 11,000 homes on the market right now. You guys realize like that's the most homes we've had in like a decade in Utah that have been active at one time. Like it's a lot. It doesn't seem, it's still not enough, but like 11,000 homes active on the market is, hey, did you realize like we've got as many homes as we've had on the market right now active than we've seen in a decade. And so it's given a lot of buyers a lot of leverage when they go in and negotiate with sellers. So we can, get things covered, we can get things fixed. We can get some help with a rate buy down, pay for your closing costs. So it really is a good opportunity to start looking and getting in if you have some interest. Market data too for us is like builder incentives is another one. We'll reach out and hit our database really hard. Like Edge just came out with, they just dropped their 5.99 to 5.5 for a 30-year fixed. So you can get a 30-year fixed loan at 5.5%, and they'll give you 3% concessions. So not only will they cover all your closing costs, all of your HOA transfer fees, everything that would go into getting a loan and some, they'll also lock your rate at 5.5. D.R. Horton's always got FHA right now is probably 4.99. Their 30-year fix is probably 5.5. And so understanding like these incentives and the motivation to get people out buying, and someone's like, it's just not affordable. Well, can I ask you, Jared, what do you think is going to happen if rates come down? What do you think is going to happen in the market? Yep. So everybody that's in that same boat, that's like, it's just not affordable. When rates come down and it becomes more affordable, people are going to come out of the woodworks to purchase. What do you think, Jared's going to happen to home prices at that point? They're going to go up. And so if we can make it work now, don't you think there is some benefit to purchasing before it happens?
Yes.
So we could always refinance. So if we can make it make sense financially, I've told a lot of people this year is like, if you can make it work for the next 12 to 18 months, I promise you it will become more affordable, but you'll have a lower purchase price. I just closed on a personal home a month ago, and I bought it for the simple fact that like, I know it's going to be tight for the next year, but when I can refinance, it appraised for $45,000 over what I'm under contract for. I'm going to double my money once I fix it up and put a little bit of money into it. Like, to me, it financially is a great purchase, but I also like, does the payment suck? Yeah, it sucks. It's going to suck for like the next year or 18 months until I can refi and get my rate down.
Do you feel that confident rates will come down significantly in the next 18
Yeah.
months?
Yeah. I closed the first week in July at 5.875. And rates today are like, rates a week and a half ago were 5.99 with Aries. So they literally are already below 6. So I'm like, we haven't even had a Fed rate drop yet. We haven't had multiple Fed rate drops yet. Like, we're already January this year, we were at 6% and we dipped below 6% 2 weeks ago.
Do you think they'll get down to the 4s again?
3s, no. High 4s, maybe. All my projection I ran off was like 5% to 5.25. So if you look back over the last 30 years and you take out the 80s, average interest rate over the last 30 years has been 5.7. So do I think it will get into the fives? Absolutely. Do I think it will get into the high fours? I think you may catch a dip from time to time. I think you may, with the right, because rates are always fluctuating, I think you may be able to catch a dip and get in the high fours. So if the economy got really bad, could we see low fours or 4%? Maybe, but I wouldn't bank on it. I wouldn't run future projections with a client for next year at 4%, but I'd feel pretty confident in low fives. So, what else do you guys think you can reach out about? Okay, community activities, that's a good one. And I want to write these out because I feel like sometimes you'll look at your phone or you'll look at your database and you'll be like, what the heck do I call this person about? What am I calling about? I have no idea. So that becomes this mental game where then you don't even want to pick up the phone because you're like, I haven't talked to this person in a while. I don't know what value I'm going to give them. So community events, there's also, you've got property tax in the fall. Okay, so everybody will get their property tax notice. That's a great time to call and to say, hey, everyone's getting their property taxes right now. If you feel like yours is off, let me know. I'm happy to run a free analysis on your home and provide comparable properties in case you want to go and fight it with the city. Okay, and see if we can get that down for you. And so through this analysis, we can determine whether they have it accurate or if it's off. And now, does it happen a ton of times it's off? No, but does it give you an in to call them? Yeah, it does. Nobody likes seeing their property taxes go up. And so, but there is times where the city will miscalculate. I've personally had it happen on one of our commercial properties, as they valued it at a property having water and sewer, and it doesn't have any of that. So we fought it and ended up getting it reduced back to where it should have been. So there is times where it can be valuable.
I got mine reduced 2 years ago.
Did you?
Yeah, I bought it the same year for 345, and they see or what it was called, put it at 440, and I was like, oh, here's the appraisal. Like, oh, for that. I was like, yeah. Yeah, it went from like 200 to 440 just in 1 year. I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah. You tell them, if you write me a check for 440 today, you can have my house. It's yours. You can move your stuff in tomorrow. So property taxes, insurance is another one. So we've got obviously Utah Home and Auto. Insurance is a good one. Everybody's insurance is going up. And if you realize like nobody shops insurance. And so Janelle at Utah Home and Auto, we will every once in a while, like we ran through this spring this year and last year. And that was our value add as a team. We were just calling to say, hey, when's the last time you've shopped your home or auto insurance? Well, I don't know. It's on auto pay. Exactly. Nobody shops those. You realize with all of the turmoil and all of the fires and all of the hurricanes, insurance for everybody is going up. It's probably, did you notice your mortgage going up first part of the year? Yeah, my escrow account said my payment's going to be $200 more this year. Could be a little bit of taxes, but it's probably a big chunk down to insurance. And so I've got a great connection, Utah Home and Auto here that my company and I have partnered with. It's free, it doesn't cost anything, but if you want me to connect you, just send a really quick email. I can connect the two of you. She can shop it for you, see if I can save you any money. Okay. Seems silly, but when's the last time somebody called you and said, hey, Mark, I just want to save you some money? Like nobody, like I joke with people sometimes of like, if I was really if I had some interest into like the stock market or a certain company, and I had somebody that was like, hey, I just wanted to call you to update you on what's going on with this company, I'd be like, all right, that's a lot of value. I would find a lot of value. So you just got to find ways to provide value. Find out what is valuable. Events is another one. So if you've got events that are going on for the office, that's another good one. So we've got just checking in with them, market data, builder incentives, community activities, property taxes, insurance. Another one is if people are like, hey, Priscilla, I bought a home last year, so I'm really not looking to move. Okay, great. Well, another one that's going to be more common for people that have purchased in the last 2.5 years is interest rates. So refinancing. So that can be one that we've started talking about as a team, that everybody that's purchased in the last 2 to 3 years that potentially has a higher interest rate as those rates start coming down, that's another way for you to connect and provide value. So interest rates can be another one. All of your clients that you guys are closing with now, know that that should be something that's on your radar. When you close, you should just have that conversation. Hey, I'm going to keep an eye on rates. I know we're closing at 6.5%. I'm going to take note of that. When rates start coming down, let's have a conversation. Let me get you connected with my lender, and let's save you some money. Okay. Anything else that you guys can think of? I promise you, if every time you go to pick up the phone to call someone, if you just can pause and think, what am I calling with value? Like, how am I providing value to this person? If you can have value, it makes the conversation so much easier, and it will push you to actually get on the phone. If you don't have anything to call them about, I promise you, one, they're really difficult conversations, and two, it's really difficult mentally to get you to want to make the phone call. So there's also a model that's talked about a bunch too, it's value asks. So when you're on the phone and you provide value, it opens a door for you to be able to ask. Ask for business, ask what real estate needs they have. Okay. So following that model, I think, is vital as you continue to grow your database. So build a database, feed it every day, communicate systematically, and then service all leads. The other thing too is follow-up is your best friend. That's the area where every agent misses out on business. That's where you guys will miss out on business. Is if you're not in your CRM, if you're not in command, you're not putting notes in there, you're not creating tasks for yourself, what naturally happens is you start to get busier, is that you start to forget the things that you're supposed to be going back to and following up with people on. Okay. So follow up. So servicing all the leads, remembering what you're supposed to follow up with people about. It's super important. Anything else with database you guys want to chat through? Growing your database. Maybe I'd list off a couple more just as far as lead gen activities. The door knocking, day-to-day combos, dinners, family gatherings. And again, in all of these, you've got to have, and this is where you've got to like role play with yourself, grab a partner, and just realize, like, if you're at a family gathering, you're naturally going to not want to bring it up, but be the person that asks the question. What questions can I ask somebody? Start a conversation that will then lead back into talking about what I am doing for work. Okay, so it's simple. Just, hey, how's work going? Where are you working at again? Right. Naturally, somebody's going to say, hey, what are you doing again? I saw you were doing real estate on your social media. How's that going? You know, and that can start to lead into having a conversation. But again, lead that conversation towards, I would love to keep in contact with you. I would love to send you great deals. People love seeing deals for real estate, you know? So again, asking, were you looking to buy, sell? You guys potentially looking to make a move? And then lead that into, I would love to stay connected with you. I'd love to get your phone number and your email. I'll send you over some more information about that. I don't know what our house is worth, but we'd love to get a house with a bigger yard. Great. Would it be okay if I just sent over an analysis and connected with you on what your home could be worth if we were to sell it today? Great. That sounds awesome. Let me get your email and I'd be happy to send that over to you, and let's jump on another phone call or meet in person to go over that information. Okay. So pushing to get their info, pushing to meet with them again. Those are all important things. Cold calling, social media. Open houses. With each of these two, when I talk to agents, it's about setting metrics for all those two. So if it's like, man, I'm going to just be like the open house king or queen, like I'm just going to crush open houses. What I tell people is like, okay, to me, If you're gonna go really deep, you're gonna be really consistent, and that's gonna be like your big thing is open houses. Well, it can't just be showing up on a Saturday, opening the door, hoping people show up, closing the door and being like, "Man, I didn't get anyone today. But I'm gonna be at it again next Saturday. I'm gonna have another open house." It's like, are you knocking the neighborhood on a Wednesday, like Priscilla's talking about? Are you doing 50 or 100 doors? Okay. Are you telling everybody about it? Are you posting about it on social media? I tell agents too, I would consider, especially with homes that go under contract really quickly, or you end up just having the great experience, even if it's not your listing, if you like call the agent and they're like, "Yeah, we got an offer over the weekend, it's under contract." It's like, great, that's a great neighborhood to go back to after it's under contract or when it closes, and knocking everyone's door and saying, "Hey, we just sold this house down the street, went under contract in 4 days. You guys have any interest in selling? We've got a few leftover buyers that want to be in this neighborhood. Maybe you ever thought about making a move? Is that something you consider?" Even if you don't have the buyers, that there was a bunch of traffic on the home. So that that's a great area and you have people that want to be there. That's another easy conversation to go back to if like open houses is your thing. You've got to do consistency with it. Same thing with like social media. You're going to get anywhere if you post one reel once a month? No. So I would think through like, what are you committing to do? How many stories, how many reels are you going to do every week? How many people are you going to follow every week? How many people are you going to message or comment on their posts every week? Like, what's that metric? So if you're winning or losing in your business. And then you've got to make sure you're consistent with it. So setting a goal, if it's one open house a week or 3 a month, how many doors are you going to knock with one of those? If it's cold calling, how many cold calls am I going to make every single day, every week? How many times am I going to post on social media? How many doors am I going to knock this week? Set some metrics so you have something to gauge yourself off of.
When you say cold calling, is it, is that like what these guys call me up and they say, "Hey, we're interested in buying your house," type of thing? What does that dialogue look like?
Yeah, it would be calling, you're trying to be specific about things. Those are more wholesalers, investors wanting to
I
purchase
was
your
at
home.
like $300,000 of what I want. Yeah, I'll
Correct.
sell to you for that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that was my business in Maryland, so I love taking those calls because we'd send text messages and I had a couple of VAs cold calling, and when somebody was warm, they're like, "Oh, this person's interested." And I call them like, "Hey, my partner said you were interested." And they're like, "Yeah, give me $1 million. I'd sell my house." I'm like, "It's worth 375
Right.
if it's fixed up, but it's probably not something we're gonna do." Cold calling, it's calling and trying to connect with people and saying, "Hey, Bill, this is Cody with Keller Williams. I was calling just to reach out and connect with you. I'm got a goal to help so many people this year. I'm reaching out to see if you have any interest in potentially making a move this year, selling your house." And you
These
guys,
people have,
yeah,
no connection.
cold calling is that is your most activity, least likely to connect. They don't know you, they don't trust you, they've never met with you. It's not face to face. Like, that is the most difficult area to lead gen out of, and it is a numbers game. It's got to be, you're not cold calling 20 people and getting anywhere. That's where you better be calling 100 to 300 people a day to try to like really start to reap some of the benefits of it. So that's a tough one. You also have to make sure you scrub it with the do not call list. Real Advantage can help you. They've got the ability to skip trace and pull some phone numbers and stuff. So again, like if you're going to farm an area and you want to go knock it, but then you also want the ability to like call them, that can be a great way to be able to have some of that information. So I would get with Real Advantage and see if you can pull some of that info. It does cost, I think it's like 8 cents a contact to be able to pull it, and they will run it through the do not call list. So you're not calling people that are going to try to sue you for reaching out to them. So you don't want to do that. But again, you just have to find ways to connect. So, yep. Let's talk through, we've kind of covered value. So like, what do I call about? Does that make sense for everybody? Finding ways of value. Okay. Sorry if this isn't legible, some of it's not legible.
It's like day continuous.
Day-to-day combos. So just your day-to-day conversations with people. So that's grocery store, getting your hair done, just being more open to having conversations instead of head down, going to the store, getting what you need and going home, and not like having conversations and running into people and being open about it. Yeah. Hey, it's good looking apples. You want to buy or sell? looking to buy or sell some real estate, you know? Like, you've got to find ways to naturally have those combos, but so you've got to be open to it. If you're totally closed off to it, you're not gonna have any. So yeah, just do it. Again, the worst thing, just accept, yes or no. Like, that's the outcome. You either walk away, and that's the hardest thing as humans, we don't like rejection. And that's the hard thing about real estate is you don't want to be told no. But you've got to realize and have the mindset. That's why when at Keller Williams, when you hear about like, what's your big why? What's like, why are you in real estate? Why are you doing all these things? You've got to like, you have to remind yourself at times, especially when you're early on, like, why am I doing this? Why am I going and door knocking and get told no, or being out here when it's hot and sweaty or freezing cold, or it's starting to rain? Like, why am I doing all these things? Like, well, because I want to be a great agent. I want to go help people. I want the outcome, but I also like, I want to be able to go buy this house or take this vacation, or I want to go do these things. You have to remind yourself what your big why is. And if you don't know what that is, that's something to figure out. Like, why am I doing these things? You do have to remind yourself sometimes, because your mindset can get into a rough place sometimes. You're like, man, I feel like I just can't get anything going in my business. So you've got to come back to that. Remember, like, no, I can do it. Like, again, that's to me why the metric of like growing your database and calling so many people every week is because during those hard weeks where you're like, man, I just feel like I haven't had anything happen. It's like, yeah, but I did make my 10 calls today. I did write my thank you cards. I did write those birthday cards. I did have those conversations. I did post that many times on social media. I am hitting my non-negotiables in my business. So I've got to just keep that up. I've got to keep the consistency and making sure the business keeps moving forward. Okay. We've talked kind of about follow-up. Is there any other questions you guys have with follow-up? We cover enough of that one. Okay. Opening the conversation. Kind of dabble in that. What's your question, Bill? I think it depends on whether it's sphere-based business, people you know, or whether it's somebody you don't know. Okay. One of the things, if it's somebody you don't know or you haven't connected with very often, one of the things we try to just get to or get away from is calling somebody and saying, hey, Bill, or hey, is this Bill? Yeah. How are you? Just because that how are you is every salesperson asks that question. Like, hey, how are you? And most of the time it's not genuine. You really don't care. You're just trying to get to the next question or next part of the conversation. So a lot of times I'll just jump into it. Somebody I'm trying to follow up with that maybe it's not friends or family and it's a lead that I'm just trying to get reconnected with. You know, I'll reach back out to say, hey, Bill, it's Cody. I was calling our last conversation. We talked a little bit about how you were hoping to buy a home this year. And so I wanted to reconnect and let you know that there has been some changes in our market. There's 11,000 homes on the market. Interest rates have come down. Could be a great opportunity. And I'm not sure it's for you yet, but it could be a great opportunity for you to start looking and getting back into having that thought or conversation of what it would look like to purchase a home. Bill, where are you at with things? Are you ready to buy a house? Have you thought about buying a home? You know, so I would start that conversation and just get right into it. It's something specific that I have to follow up with. If it's SOI based, opening the conversation, it really is, I think, more than anything, caring about people. Like, do you care about the person? I think that goes farther than anything. So if it's somebody that you know, friends, family, haven't talked to them in a while, it's reaching out. But we all have those calls where they reach out and you're just like, what the freak do you want? Like, why are you calling? Like, I know you want something. Like, you haven't called me in 5 years, so why are you calling me? So sometimes I tell agents, like, just call the elephant out in the room. Mark, hey, I'm calling you. I've changed careers. I've got into real estate. So I'm actually reaching out to you to let you know about this. But also, I would love to also follow up with you. I'm just going to approach it in a way like, I know you're thinking this, or you're going to be thinking it in 15 seconds from now. And want to know, I haven't heard from you since high school. Like, why are you calling me? I'll just be forefront about it. Like, if you guys are adding people in, you know, you're like, man, I haven't talked to this person in 3 years. I don't have any idea what's going on in their life. Calling them is going to be so awkward. Well, then just call the elephant out. Hey, and it's to me, I like the approach because I think it gets you in a situation where they're like, well, at least they're being genuine. At least they're coming from a place like they're going to be open and they're not like, hey, how's life? I haven't seen you since that party like 4 years ago. Like, what have you been up to? Where are you working at? It's like, there's that hesitancy, the whole conversation where they're like, "Ooh, okay, get to the punchline.
Yeah, why are you
What,
calling?
why are you calling?" You know? So I think being just upfront about it and just saying, hey, I'm reaching out. I've changed careers. I'm in real estate and I'm really excited about it. I've got a lot of really cool things going on and things, and I've got a lot of stuff going on, and the market is doing this or that or the other. But I wanted to call and just connect with you and see how life's going. What have you been up to? You know, where are you working at now? Like that to me is a lot more natural conversation of just approaching it first, saying, hey, I'm calling you because I'm in real estate. I've changed careers. But what are you doing? How's life? How's the family? How are the kids? Where are you working at? And then tying it back into at the end, saying, hey, well, I appreciate you taking my phone call. I'm glad I could reconnect with you. I would love to stay connected and make sure that you're aware of what's going on in the real estate market. If you ever have any questions, you know, I would love to be the person that you reach out to. Priscilla, do you have anybody, if you had any questions about real estate, do you have anybody that you would feel comfortable calling? No, not really. Would it be okay if I just stayed connected with you and reached out from time to time? You know, most people are like, yeah, sure, it's been great. This conversation's been good. Like, yeah, it'd be fantastic. Priscilla, I do send out just one email a month. It's honestly really about community events going on. It's things that are happening in our backyard. Would it be okay if I sent that out to you? Can I get your email and I promise, and sometimes you get people that are a little hesitant. That's where sometimes you got to take the step of like, I promise I'm not going to spam you. I'm not going to send you 50 emails in the next 7 days. It really is one email a month. It'll have a little bit of market data, but it will have information about what's going on in our neighborhood, whatever you have part of it. And most people will be pretty open to that. So get that piece of information, and that's your door of following up. I also think setting expectations of, great, it was to connect with you. Thanks for taking my phone call. You know, I'll reach out again. There's no expectation there. So I'm not as forefront as like, hey, I'm going to call you once every 90 days, 4 times a year, moving forward, because you gave me your information. But hey, can I just keep in contact with you? Can I reach out every couple months and just keep you up to date on what's going on in real estate and just see how life's going? You know, most people are pretty open to that. And I think the other thing too is all of you guys have different styles of how you communicate with people. You guys all have different backgrounds, different stories. And so how I communicate with my database is going to be different than how all of you guys slightly are going to communicate with your database. You know, all of us are at different stages of life too. And so you just got to find your kind of niche. Some agents are very forefront. They'll just call people like, hey, I'm calling for business. How are you doing? But do you have any real estate needs? Who do you know that I can reach out to? And some agents find success in doing that. People know that is kind of how, when that caller ID picks up, they know that Steve's going to pick up the phone and ask me for business. And personally don't think it's the best approach, being that way, but that's where each of you have to find your kind of your groove of reaching out to your people and connecting with them. But know that more than anything, if you want to be successful, you have to make the phone calls. You have to knock the doors. You have to have the conversations. If you don't do that, agent walks up like, man, I'm just struggling in my business. I haven't had any success. It's like, okay, I'll usually ask them, how many conversations did you have last week? Real estate related. Not talking about football, not talking about the Olympics, like what real estate related conversations did you have? And like I said, it doesn't always, if you're consistent with it, you don't always have to bring up real estate every single time. But if you're not talking real estate in general to people, how many people are you calling and talking to every week? How many conversations do you have? How many people did you add to your database? Most of the time it's like, I don't know, I talked to like maybe 5 people last week. I didn't add anybody in my database. Like, well, you're gonna sell many houses talking to 5 people a week? Like, no, like you got to go talk to a bunch of people every week.
When you're having, so,
Go ahead. Yeah.
when you're having these conversations and you kind of tie them up, are you then going into command right away and making notes about what you discussed, and then a follow-up time, like you said, hey, I'll reach out to you sometime the next month?
Yep. Hopefully.
It's like, hey,
I'd be making calls with command in front of me. Yep.
okay.
Pull up the person, make sure they're in command, and then put any notes that you need to put in there. Any to-do task items that need to happen. You know, I would for sure, that's best practices.
Yeah.
If you're not doing that, then you should be at least setting some time aside where you're going back and putting that information in, either end of day, end of week, But
So you get confused
yeah.
with these or something.
Yep. You start to lose out, yep,
Yeah.
start to lose out on information, you know, if you just don't have it pulled up. So. Okay, what other questions you guys have?
You're just giving me like 100 ideas as we've been talking, so I've just been like writing things down and texting.
Good,
about
good.
stuff to say. Good. So, the hesitation I still have is like, if I'm calling, I guess I just need to figure out how to add value to the conversation, because if I call, I just am not a phone caller, so if people get a call from me, they're like, what happened, who's in the hospital?
Yeah, what is going on?
Yeah, so in order to like get over that hump, maybe even some of the script you just gave about reaching out to someone you don't know very well, I'd be reaching out to people I do know kind of well, but they're just not used to getting a phone call from me.
Yep.
Would that be a script to just kind of say, just so you know, it's really helpful.
No, I don't think, I don't think so, because that, like, if your database feels that way because of where you're at in life and the relationship you have with them, I think setting expectations for people are the best thing that you can do in this industry, because then they expect it, they know it, they know it's coming. So like, to pick up the phone and if you feel that they're probably wondering that, just say, hey, you're probably wondering why I'm calling, because nothing crazy has happened, but I'm in real estate. I want to just make sure you know what's going on. I want to keep connected. We do events and there's fun things that I will invite you to. And so don't be alarmed when I call and reach out to you. But how are you? How's life? How are your kids doing? You know, what's new? What are you guys up to this fall? You know, he's excited to get the kids back in school. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to that, because they like, oh, okay, she's calling to connect with me about these things. But there's also that being genuine, caring, loving side of, how is life? What are you up to? How can I help? You know, and having those normal conversations that you normally have, but you're just, hey, I have a goal to just stay more connected with people. I've used that script a lot of times too before, of just, hey, I've got a goal this year to connect with new people and stay more connected with my friends and family, and you're on that list. And I know it's been a while since I've reached out and we've had a conversation. You know, what are you up to? How is life? And so letting people know, like, this is one of my goals, is to be more connected and network with people. And you're on that list. I would love to have a better relationship with you. And then let that conversation carry in. And then at the end, tie it up with, hey, I'm going to reach out. I'll let you know what's going on in the market. I'll let you know of events, really cool developments that are unveiling here in the state in our backyard. You know, I'd love to keep you up to date on those things. And then, of course, as always, like, if you have any real estate questions at all, I hope that you know I'm always happy to help. I'll always be here. And if you know of anybody that potentially is looking to buy or sell, I would love to be at the top of your list to help them out and send them my way. Okay. And then after that conversation where you start to set the stage, I think that's important when you're making those first conversations with people, that you're calling and letting them know, like, hey, I'm in real estate. This is what's going on. This is what I'm hoping to accomplish. I hope to reach out and connect with you a couple times a year and let you know about what's going on in my industry, and setting that stage. And then when you call them, they're like, they were expecting it in the back of their mind. They're like, oh yeah, I remember when she told me that this is how it was going to be. And this is why she's going to be reaching out. And then the other thing too is, like, I prefer to have shorter conversations, unless it's somebody that I know is like wanting to have a longer conversation with me, or the conversation's going well, because I don't want it to seem like, we all have those people that call us. We're like, I just don't have freaking 45 minutes. So like, I don't have, so you don't take the call, you know? So you have to be mindful. Like, we all have those people in our lives. And so in this business, like, if it's not somebody that you're comfortable and they're not going to be comfortable having that long conversation with, just be short and sweet on the phone, you know, for certain things. Hey, I'm reaching out. There's a bunch of builder incentives going on. They just reduced their interest rate. They're in the 5s. I'm not sure it's for you, but I wanted to let you know that that's what's going on. Would you guys be interested in that at all? Or who do you know that would be interested in taking advantage of some really low interest rates? No, I don't know anybody right now, but hey, keep me in mind if you have anybody. It's been great for first-time home buyers. A lot of I've helped, you know, quite a few kids get into condos and townhomes recently. You know, so those are things that, don't be the person that's like, I've got you on the phone, I'm gonna pin you down, ask you 25 questions for the next 30 minutes. You know, keep it short and sweet. What else? What are you guys' takeaways from today? Any ahas? Hopefully this was helpful.
all those things you can do to bring value to people in a phone call. It's like you just gave us a whole list of things we could talk about.
Yeah. One, too, like crazy as it is, like, it wasn't this spring, it was the spring before, where we had the big winter and all the snow. We literally spent like a month as a team calling our database and just being like, hey, there's a lot of flooding in the community right now. Are you guys okay? You guys need anything? You guys need sandbags? You need me to tell you, send you the location and where you can get those at? Like, those that like finding things like that can be a great way. Again, it's not, we're not ramming real estate down the throat, but it's, hey, I care about you guys. Are you guys okay? Are you doing okay? You have anybody that neighbors that are worried about, you know, flooding? Can we send them some information and make sure they get taken care of? Doing service in the community. So like the brokerage will do, we just did back to school backpacks with the Orm Foster Care, but we'll do like a Thanksgiving turkey drive as an office. So like that's a great way to call and say, hey, we're doing this. We're helping the community. We're giving back. I joke with people because I think it was last year, Jordan Clarkson, who plays for the Utah Jazz, they had done like 400 turkeys. And so he was on the news. They had all this stuff at this elementary school for Jordan Clarkson because they raised 400 turkeys. I think our office did 1,400 that year. And I'm like, we just don't have to, we're just not Jordan Clarkson. We're not on that level, but it's funny at times. Like you can make a big difference by finding ways in the community to give back, you know, so and it doesn't have to be on a brokerage scale. You know, if you're like, hey, I'm doing this back to school drive, or I'm doing this, I'm getting a bunch of coats and clothes for the homeless, you know, like you can put together small things and reach out to your database to contribute and participate in that. And it doesn't have to be, like I said, real estate related. Okay, any other ahas? Any other questions you guys got for me before we wrap up?
This is awesome. Thank you so
Hey,
much.
good. You're welcome. You're welcome. I don't have like a QR code. You guys want my phone number? Open book. You guys ever need anything, call me. So it's first name's Cody, Cody. Last name. Oh, you pull it up. It's probably easier if I give you a second. He's old school. He's got pen and paper. You guys got it ready? So Cody, Cody. Last name's Thorup, Thorup. And my phone number is 385-695-8382. And then my email is just cody@redsign.com. You're welcome. You guys need anything, like I said, I'm an open book. Call me, text me. I'm happy to help. Okay. We've all been where you guys are at. I was there just not that long ago. You know, I had a bit of background in real estate, but it's nerve-wracking getting in. Like, I'm not gonna get paid unless I gotta take care of, gotta get business, and I'm not gonna get paid unless I get something closed. And so just keep at it. That's my encouragement. Just make calls, contacts, find ways to get involved in the community, find ways to connect with people. There's a million things that you can do. There really is. There's a million things that you can do to accomplish that, but just go call, contact, have conversations, and make sure you're tying it back into, I'd love to stay connected with you and grow your database. Okay?
It's just good. I went through, started doing that this morning, and I'm like, no, I mean, like, 'cause I still know a lot of people and a lot of contacts in,
Yep.
but then as we're speaking, like, he was talking to them, he was aging with them, pretty focused on that sort of stuff.
Yep.
People, contact him, and I thought, I'm not a better person to stay in contact with. He has people, investors there, and it's Utah, it's a great market.
Yep.
And no guy out there, bunch of discussions. So, I mean, things where you thought maybe gonna get it in, you just cracks in it. Hey, I see a way through that. So,
Yep.
no,
Good.
great, thank you.
Okay, good.
Do you have, maybe I want to talk about the solar financing, you said you had some solar financing. Listen,
Yeah. Yep.
do I ask you about that?
Yep.
We have something you can maybe.
Yep. Or just ask me now.
Do this one.